What if I told you some of the most iconic sci-fi films ever made were total failures at first? Blade Runner, The Thing, Dune, all of them bombed in their time, leaving critics scratching their heads. But over decades, they've become legends. How did they go from trash to treasure? Stick around to find out why these films were buried and why they're now impossible to ignore. You won't believe the shocking truth behind their resurrection. Annihilation, 2018. What makes a film unforgettable? Annihilation was the perfect mix of mystery, horror, and philosophical depth, yet it bombed at the box office. Despite rave reviews for its stunning visuals and the chilling bear scene, the film was buried due to poor marketing and its unconventional approach to sci-fi horror. Why didn't audiences flock to see it? Perhaps it was its cerebral nature, its unflinching exploration of grief and self-destruction that kept many from fully embracing it. But what's fascinating is that years later, Annihilation has become a cult classic, a film that invites you to question the limits of human experience. Those who once ignored it now can't stop talking about its haunting beauty and the chilling mystery at its core. Annihilation didn't just ask questions, it left viewers with no answers, making it a puzzle they had to revisit. Despite its initial failure, the film's slow-burn horror and high-concept storytelling have made it one of the most talked-about sci-fi films of the last decade. Its re-evaluation is a testament to the power of bold, risk-taking filmmaking that might not always win over the masses, but can still resonate with those who dare to explore its depths. Dark City, 1998. Dark City was a victim of poor marketing and bad timing. Released in a year flooded with more mainstream blockbusters, this neo-noir sci-fi epic was buried under the avalanche of more easily digestible films. The movie's haunting visuals and intricate story about a man trapped in a surreal, ever-changing cityscape seemed too complicated for audiences at the time. It was a movie that challenged the viewer, inviting them to look deeper, and in an era of instant gratification, it was too much for many to handle. However, as the years went on, Dark City began to gain the respect it deserved. Today, it's praised as one of the most visually stunning and thought-provoking sci-fi films ever made. The story's influence on The Matrix is undeniable, but beyond that, its exploration of memory, identity, and the nature of reality continues to captivate viewers. Dark City shows that sometimes the most groundbreaking films are the ones that are ahead of their time. It may have been overlooked when it was first released, but now it's impossible to ignore, with its unique vision and timeless questions about human consciousness. Sunshine, 2007. Sometimes it takes years for a film to be appreciated for the masterpiece it is. Sunshine was one of those films. Danny Boyle's sci-fi thriller, a space journey that treads into the unknown with the fate of humanity at stake, failed to ignite the box office. Released with high expectations, the film's subtle shifts in tone, particularly its third-act twist, caught many off guard. Critics were divided, with some unable to reconcile the film's slow-burn atmosphere and existential meditations with the more explosive expectations set by its trailers. The film earned just $34.8 million worldwide against a $40 million budget, a financial disappointment, leaving many to dismiss it as another sci-fi misstep. Yet over time, Sunshine has grown into something more, something profound. It's now seen as a cult classic, praised for its philosophical depth, its sense of isolation, and its strikingly emotional performances. The film explores the human condition in the most extreme of circumstances. Space. Boyle masterfully elevates the genre beyond its typical thrills and transforms it into a meditation on sacrifice, survival, and the fragility of the human spirit. Its visual style, perfectly blending spectacle with intimacy, has influenced a new generation of filmmakers. Sunshine's re-evaluation proves that sometimes films that initially alienate can later find a devoted following when their subtleties are understood and appreciated. Its place in modern sci-fi cinema is now undeniable. Dredd, 2012. It's rare for a film to get everything right and still fail. Dredd, the 2012 adaptation of the iconic comic book character, was a gritty, high-octane, and true-to-source film that captured the raw energy of its source material. Yet, against all odds, it bombed at the box office. Despite the praise it garnered for its stunning visual effects and intense action, Dredd struggled to connect with a wider audience. It didn't help that the film was released in a crowded market, competing with bigger blockbuster names and facing the stigma of being just another comic book movie. However, this perception couldn't have been further from the truth. Dredd took the dystopian Law & Order world of Mega City 1 and transformed it into a brutal, no-nonsense action spectacle, praised for its faithful adaptation and lack of compromise. The film's laser focus on gritty realism, combined with a minimalist plot, turned away mainstream audiences looking for more character-driven narratives or over-the-top action sequences. Yet, in the years following its release, Dredd has been reevaluated and embraced by fans for what it truly is: a relentless, unapologetic, and often brutal exploration of justice, morality, and survival in a futuristic city. It is now considered one of the best comic book adaptations, with a devoted fan base still clamoring for a sequel. Sometimes the films that get buried can still endure, gaining recognition long after the initial disappointment fades. The Iron Giant, 1999. How can a film so widely loved today have bombed so spectacularly when it was first released? The Iron Giant, an animated classic from Brad Bird, was met with an underwhelming response at the box office, earning far less than its production cost. Despite being one of the most critically acclaimed animated films of all time, the lack of marketing support from Warner Brothers left it unnoticed by the mainstream audience. The film's gentle, emotional story of a boy and a robot in a 1950s American town, coupled with themes of sacrifice, friendship, and identity, resonated deeply with those who did see it. Yet, at the time of its release, many viewers and critics failed to connect with its more subtle narrative, missing out on its true emotional depth. Its failure to meet box office expectations led to its quick fade from the limelight, with the Iron Giant quickly disappearing from theaters. But over the years, it found a second life. Through home video sales, TV airings, and word of mouth, it became clear that the Iron Giant was a timeless piece of cinema, beloved by generations who rediscovered its magic. The film's themes of heroism, identity, and the power of choice have made it a touchstone for animated films and a must-watch for anyone who loves a story with heart. In the end, The Iron Giant proved that true classics are often the ones that take time to find their audience, earning its place as one of the best animated films ever made. Donnie Darko, 2001. Some films take a little longer to find their place in cinema history, and Donnie Darko is the perfect example of this. Released just after 9/11, Donnie Darko had the misfortune of addressing themes of death, mental illness, and time travel in a film that many couldn't process in the wake of such a tragedy. With a limited release and poor test screenings, it struggled to find its footing in theaters, grossing just $1.5 million against a $6 million budget. At the time, its dark tone, bizarre narrative, and deeply philosophical questions were too much for mainstream audiences, causing it to be written off as a strange and confusing misfire. However, like many cult classics, Donnie Darko found its second life after its home video release. With its surrealist approach, eerie atmosphere, and unforgettable soundtrack, the film became a staple for viewers who appreciated its complex exploration of fate, mental illness, and the nature of existence. Over the years, Donnie Darko has gained a massive following and has been recognized as a modern classic. Its influence on indie cinema and genre filmmaking is undeniable. It's a testament to the power of a film that, while misunderstood at first, resonates deeply with audiences over time, making it a beloved favorite for generations of viewers. Dune, 1984. Whereas David Lynch's Dune was an audacious attempt to bring Frank Herbert's dense and expansive science fiction novel to life, but it was a financial and critical disaster upon its release. At the time, audiences weren't ready for the intricate world-building and philosophical themes the film presented. The narrative was dense, and with Lynch's unique directorial style, it didn't exactly appeal to mainstream moviegoers. The film's ambitious scope, combined with its underwhelming special effects, left many viewers scratching their heads rather than basking in awe. Despite its star-studded cast and the groundbreaking idea of adapting one of sci-fi's most celebrated novels, Dune failed to recoup its $40 million budget. It wasn't just a financial failure, it was a creative one too. Now, with critics complaining about its convoluted plot and Lynch's inability to capture the essence of Herbert's complex universe. However, over the years, the film began to find a new audience, those who appreciated its ambition, its boldness, and its unapologetic weirdness. Dune has since earned a cult following, with fans praising its visual style, the way it captures the essence of Herbert's universe, and its quirky, surrealist take on science fiction. Even Lynch himself, known for creating enigmatic films, contributed to its legacy, acknowledging its troubled production but never shying away from its unique place in cinema history. In the wake of new adaptations of Dune, Lynch's version remains a fascinating, polarizing relic, a film that, while far from perfect, it managed to stand as a precursor to the epic stories sci-fi cinema would later embrace. Starship Troopers, 1997. When Starship Troopers first hit theaters in 1997, it was marketed as a no-holds-barred action flick, filled with explosions, space battles, and the kind of militaristic fervor that would appeal to any fan of sci-fi. What audiences didn't realize, though, was that director Paul Verhoeven's intent was to craft a biting satire on fascism and the dangers of blind nationalism. The film's critique of militarism and authoritarianism went right over the heads of many, and the film's over-the-top violence and campy performances only added to the confusion. It grossed a disappointing $121 million worldwide, far below its $105 million budget. It seemed like Starship Troopers was doomed to be remembered as another superficial action flick with little substance. But time has proven it to be far more than that. Over the years, viewers have come to understand its satirical depth, recognizing that the film's ridiculous levels of violence, propaganda, and absurd dialogue were designed to mock the very ideologies they appeared to promote. Today, Starship Troopers is celebrated for its clever commentary on the dangers of fascism, media manipulation, and the militarization of society. Its absurdity is not just for shock value, but as a vehicle for a much-needed conversation about the cost of war and unchecked power. What was once dismissed as a brainless blockbuster has evolved into a cult classic, an unintentional masterpiece that now receives the appreciation it was denied on its release. The Thing, 1982. John Carpenter's The Thing wasn't just a horror sci-fi film, it was a nightmare trapped in the ice. Yet when it first hit theaters in 1982, it failed to make an impact. Released in the same summer as E.T. the Extraterrestrial, a heartwarming, family-friendly alien story, The Thing's grotesque practical effects and chilling atmosphere felt like too much for audiences who weren't ready for such a disturbing portrayal of alien horror. The film's reputation suffered from its excessive violence and terror, with some labeling it too bleak and graphic for mainstream tastes. Its practical effects, widely regarded today as some of the most innovative in film history, were dismissed as grotesque and over-the-top, turning many off. The movie's bleak tone and relentless paranoia, while integral to the story, made it feel like a downer compared to the feel-good sci-fi films of the era. The result? A dismal box office performance. But The Thing's story didn't end there. As home video sales surged, the film began to gather the following it truly deserved. Over the years, The Thing evolved into one of the greatest horror sci-fi movies of all time, with its atmosphere, themes of trust and isolation, and mind-bending special effects being embraced as a high watermark in genre filmmaking. Critics and audiences alike now regard it as a masterpiece of tension and horror, and its influence can be seen across the genre. From modern horror to sci-fi thrillers. Its reevaluation is proof that sometimes the films that challenge us the most are the ones that last. Blade Runner, 1982. Ridley Scott's Blade Runner was a visionary masterpiece that barely found its footing in its own time. Released in the same summer as E.T. and The Thing, it struggled to find its audience. The film's complex themes of identity, humanity, and artificial life were lost on many viewers, and its slow pace was at odds with the blockbuster-driven tastes of the early 80s. Despite being set in a visually stunning dystopian future, the film's intricate narrative was too deep for the casual moviegoer. It was a critical failure at first, grossing only $27 million against its $28 million budget, and the film's pacing and the ambiguity of its central themes left many confused rather than captivated. But over time, the perception of Blade Runner began to shift. Its philosophical musings on what it means to be human, the role of artificial intelligence, and the darker implications of a technologically advanced world resonated with future generations. Blade Runner's influence can be seen across countless films that followed, from The Matrix to Ghost in the Shell, establishing it as the definitive cyberpunk film. Its visual style, with neon-lit streets and dystopian architecture, became iconic. Blade Runner transformed from a box office bomb into a cinematic cornerstone, and its legacy continues to shape the genre today. What was once a misunderstood failure is now regarded as one of the most important films in the history of science fiction. It's a testament to the power of bold, ahead-of-its-time storytelling that ultimately finds its audience. These films were buried under disappointment only to rise as timeless classics. Their journeys from box office failures to cult masterpieces remind us that true artistry often takes time to be recognized. Which of these films do you think deserved more attention? Drop a comment, like, and subscribe for more cinematic gems that were lost, then found.